Welcome back. My next guest is Peter Power, a U.S. Marine veteran who served in Vietnam. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very, very happy to have you, as our guest. And as you know, on Hometown Happenings, since we started this over 5 years ago, we've done a bunch of shows, and we've always tried to make sure that we bring our veterans on as a way to thank them, also to kind of recognize their service. So in this segment, it's really to kind of talk a little bit about your service, and before we forget, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, and it was an honor to serve.
So Peter, let's talk a little bit about you. So what's your background? How long have you been living here in Hogshead, Rockland
Well,
County?
I grew up in New Paltz, New York. I'm the last of 10 children.
Wow.
My two older brothers served in the Army. I was actually drafted into the Marine Corps. I had no idea that that's where I was heading. I thought I was going to follow in my brother's footsteps. If back in the 70s, 69, 70, they came out with a lottery system because nobody was signing up or enlisting in any of the services. So what happened was, after we took got my draft notice, and my lottery number was 68. And my mother very politely told me, you might as well pack your bags because I think you're going to be going in the Army. So I went to Albany, New York, and took my test, took my physical, and we were there for probably, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 hours before they came in and said, all right, everybody raise your right hand. We raised our right hand. We got sworn in, and of course back then there was no cell phones. So they said, if you got to make a phone call, make it now. So everybody ran out to the pay phones and called my mother, collected, said, listen, I'm going to Fort Dix. I'll call you when I get there. And she wished me luck and said, okay, I'll talk to you soon. About 45 minutes later, this guy walks in and said, everybody get in groups of 25. So my friend who I went to high school with grabbed me and said, come on, this is for the bus ride to Fort Dix. So we stood over this group, and this guy comes in and he says, this 25 is in the Army. This 25 is in the Air Force. This 25 is in the Navy. This 25 is in the Marine Corps. I looked at the guy and I said, sir, I think I got drafted in the Army. He goes, son, you got drafted in the United States, or you got drafted in the United States Armed Forces, which the Marine Corps is part of. Have a nice time at Paris Island.
That's a great story.
And that was the start of my career. That was the start of my, it was like a whirlwind. It happened quick. I mean, it went from Paris Island to Camp Geiger, from Camp Geiger to Camp Pendleton. From Pendleton, we were supposed to get aboard the USS Duluth, but it was in repair at San Diego. So they flew us from California to Okinawa, where we trained for probably 6 weeks. And at that time, we got woken up at 2:30 in the morning, and we were taken down to Mashinada, where the Navy base was. And when I woke up that morning, I looked up. I'd never seen a ship that big in my life. I looked up and I said, oh my God. And that's when we boarded the USS Duluth and headed to the South China Sea.
Wow. So let's jump back to Paris. I mean, that's just a great story, and obviously 1 of 10. I can empathize with you, but I'm 1 of 9. So I'm number 7 out of 9. But and your two brothers. So did they also serve in Vietnam? Or?
No, they actually served. My brother Frank served at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and my brother George served in Germany.
Okay. And tell us just a little bit about Paris Island. What was that like? I mean, it was during wartime, right? I mean, when were you in?
I went in actually 70. Actually 70.
Okay.
I went May of 1970.
Okay, so still Vietnam War and everything that's going on with that. So,
yep.
So I would imagine. I mean, your basic at Paris Island was probably fairly intense, but they were really looking to ramp troops up to get you overseas.
It was 13 weeks of very intense training. I don't know anything about the Marine training, but at that time it was called Elliott's Beach, and before you can graduate, you have to go through this 3-day. Now they call it the Crucible. So by the end of the 13 weeks, you had to know how to take your M14 apart blindfolded and put it back together. You had to know how to take your .45 pistol apart blindfolded and put it back together. These were some of the things that the Marine Corps teaches that you never forget. And unfortunately, when I brought this stuff home, now in my regular life, I still have my kids. Listen, you have to do things
Right.
You know, and that's the way you'll learn it, and you'll always know it. It's a good lesson in life. It's a good lesson to always bring,
Right.
you know, bring to life.
No, absolutely. Very, very specific attention to detail with the training. So tell us. So from Parris Island, you went down south, to Camp Pendleton, Georgia, right?
Camp Pendleton, California.
Oh, California. Okay. So
Yeah. There's only two places where the Marines train. It's either in Parris Island or Oregon, Camp Pendleton, California. San Diego, which is part of the...
So out to San Diego. So and then from there, you shipped out to Okinawa and then on a troop ship. So tell us what it was like coming into Vietnam.
Well, I can tell exactly because, you know, I remember like it happened yesterday. Well, we had picked up a battalion of South Vietnamese Marines, and they were actually they slept on our flight deck. That was on, I think, Good Friday. We'd picked them up and they had landed Saturday. Easter Sunday morning at 4:45, we heard General Quarters, this is not a drill, man your battle stations. So where we were, it was called the berthing area. It was an area, probably half the size of this room. We were stacked 6 high in canvas racks, beds, I guess you want to call them. You know, and as we got dressed and got our gear on, as we walked out through this hatch, you know, the guy started handing us live ammunition, and I knew right then that you know, it was go time. So to get there, you know, we got there. It was still dark when we got to the, you know. But then, you know, they had already told us about these. The beaches looked like it snowed, and the sand was snow white. It actually looked like snow.
Really?
But it was quite an eye opener. And I tell everybody this. It was like a $2 million experience I wouldn't give you a quarter for.
Yeah, that's a great saying. But so you disembark and you obviously you're right into a war zone. Could you tell us a little bit what your service was like?
Well, I spent the first 37 days on the ground. We were shipped from our first starting point, which was it was a radar tower that we were protecting, and then we were shipped down to a place called Bien Hoa. And we were at Bien Hoa. It was a helicopter air base used by the Marines and the Army. We were there to basically protect the perimeter of the base. And it wasn't, I don't think it was like 7 days that I was there, and the Marine Major came in when we were having lunch, and he said, I need 6 volunteers, you, and you. And we became door gunners in helicopters. So most of my time, you know, I spent in the air, which was probably a good thing.
You obviously, you had guys that you were stationed with, did you lose any guys that you were stationed with?
Unfortunately, yes.
And not to dwell on that, but we want to, you know, remember their service as well. Anything you want to share about any of the folks that you served with that were lost?
There was a real close friend of mine that his name was Gary Fuentes. That, a matter of fact, the Susan Brandon, who is now the VA. She saw me one day at a ceremony, and I just happened to reach in my pocket, and I took his picture out, you know, and she looked at it, and she goes, who's that? And I explained to her who it was. She said, oh, you take him with you, huh? I go, yeah, I do. I've had the opportunity to go to the wall, and I still just haven't had the courage to go up and touch it yet.
Right. Where was he from?
He was from Cleveland, Ohio.
Right. And
he was a Ford. He worked for the Ford. You know, we used to talk all the time. They used to kid me about being a farmer because I grew up on a farm. You know, and he worked in the Ford motor plant.
Right. And we remember his service and his sacrifice, which, you know, incredibly difficult. What was it like flying? You know, being a gunner in helicopters? And one of the guys who works in my office, we just brought him on, his Jeff Gillies. His dad was actually killed in Vietnam, was a chopper pilot, and was actually killed, you know, over in Vietnam. But very dangerous, you know, and thankfully you came through. But what was it like, you know, flying in the helicopter? And what was, did you have any close calls?
Many close calls. most of the people that flew, the Marine Corps, they gave us a flak jacket, which was only supposed to stop, small fragments. But if you were in a helicopter, you didn't wear that flak jacket. You sat on it because they would be shooting up at you. I can only tell you this. When we came into a hot LZ, if the jungle lit up, I lit the jungle up,
Right.
and off we went. Our missions were basically to pick up the wounded,
Okay.
and then come back later for the deceased.
So you really, I mean, obviously saw some difficult time on the helicopter itself. So you were the gunner and you were kind of the gatekeeper protecting people, if you will. And there were medics on the chopper as well, I would
Yes.
imagine.
Yeah. So there was always one corpsman.
Right. And how long were you stationed over in Vietnam altogether?
I would say in country, probably a total of maybe 8 months, because between R&R, you were in and out. Then we got put back on the ship again to go. They put us back on a ship to go. We were 65 miles north of the DMZ on a place called Station Czar, and that was to pick up pilots that were bombing in the north. And if they would get shot down, they would fly out to sea and bail out in the sea, and then we'd pick them up.
Okay. And so when you cycled out from Vietnam,
Well, it was called rotating back to the world.
right? So when you rotated back to the world, what did you do? What did you do next after
Well,
Vietnam?
when I got out, I actually got out on a Friday, and I went to work for Mack Truck in Newburgh as a mechanic. And from Mack Truck, I went to the town of New Paltz, and I worked at the town of New Paltz on the highway department, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, I moved to upstate New York, and got involved with a trucking company, and I started driving over the road, tractor trailer over the road.
Oh, wow. And then how long have you been down this way?
I've been here down in Rockland since 1990.
1990. And married, kids?
Married 21 years the first time with 2 kids, and I've been married successfully 26 years. So I'm good. I'm vested in the marriage system.
Good. You also were involved or have been involved with the Marine Corps League.
Yes.
And also the American Legion. Can you tell us a little bit about that service as well?
Well, the Marine Corps League is such an outstanding organization. They do so much, not only here in the county, but for people all over. Same with the American Legion. They don't do as, like the Marine Corps League does a Toys for Tots program, which is a big program here in the county. And it's always nice to know that, the toys that they collect stay here in the county. Nothing leaves the county. Everything stays here. Mm-hmm. Again, a very successful program. And I'm sure, you've been invited to the Marine Corps Birthday Luncheon,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
the Iwo Jima Luncheon.
Yep.
These are things that, the Marine Corps' birthday is coming up November 10th.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, what's the big deal? Well, the Marine Corps is the only one that has a birthday. Mm-hmm. We were born in 1775, November 10th, at Tung's Tavern, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Now, so it's, and again, we were joking off camera, beforehand, John Murphy, and I made the mistake once of saying he was a Marine. It's once a Marine, always a Marine. And John used to joke all the time, speak slowly because I'm a Marine, but the reality is that just incredible bravery, but you carry that sense of service and duty with you with the Marine Corps League. They do great work. I mean, I go to a lot of Eagle Scout ceremonies, and the Marine Corps League is always there. They present an award to all Eagle Scouts that attain that rank. It's the highest rank in scouting. Only like 3% of all Boy Scouts actually attain that,
Right.
That rank. And the Marine Corps League is part of that. And so you were a commandant for the Marine Corps League, so, but also past commander of the American Legion, right?
Yes, yep.
Which American Legion?
In Pomona.
Okay.
But I'm now a member of the one in New City.
Right. So, which is great to have you as part of that. Well, Peter, we're about out of time, but I do want to thank you for your distinguished service to our country. I think it's important as supervisor to make sure that as we have these hometown happenings show, that we always have a veteran that's a part of it, because we want to recognize and commemorate that service. Not everybody, goes off in that direction. Now, you were drafted, but you also came from a family of service. So, but specifically with you serving during Vietnam and serving during a time of war, and really experiencing that suffering, that strength, that struggle, the loss, but also your service. So, our country's certainly better for your service, both in the Marines and then afterwards with the Marine Corps League and with the American Legion. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Just something you might want to just remember that in the Marine Corps emblem, there's an eagle, globe, and anchor, which means we'll fight on land, air, or sea. But in the eagle's mouth is a banner, and in the banner it says Semper Fidelis, which, if you know anything about Latin, stands for always faithful. One thing I was in as a child in my family with my, so that's a very important thing that I think the kids are missing out on today.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad that they don't teach it anymore, but we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what happens.
No, I totally agree, and there's a faithfulness to that, to duty. I mean, you probably remember, there's a movie from the '50s, Mr. Roberts, right?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
And there's a great line in that where Henry Fonda wants to leave the ship, he wants to move on, and he wants to see combat, and he's basically serving on a supply ship, and he feels like the war is kind of passing him by. But what was kind of at the heart of that, after as he's getting ready to leave the ship, he realizes, and the doc on the ship, I think played by Ward Bond or one of the great actors from the 40s, talks about everybody who kind of sailed on this ship between boredom to monotony, to intense labor, was a hero in their own way because they were faithful to their own duty, and that's exactly what you're talking about. And you carry that emblematically, not just your faithfulness in combat and your faithfulness in the Marine Corps, but your faithfulness afterwards in raising a family, your faithfulness as a commandant of the Marine Corps League, and as a past commander for the American Legion. And that's a symbol, and that's something that, it's very unique to vets, being able to kind of carry on the brotherhood, the sisterhood that's taking place in the service, and how you understand and you'll connect very often with other vets in a way in which non-vets won't connect. And part of it is really just that diligence to duty, that faithfulness to duty. So thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. So again, my thanks for your service, for being such a great guest, and we really value your service. And thank you for being willing to share about your friend who passed away, because we really need to remember folks like that who paid the ultimate price 50 years later.
Yeah, thank you.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.